Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another YouTube video. In this one, I actually wanted to do something a little bit different. I've had a lot of people ask about my watch collection, as well as some other things that I've purchased. I'll be running you guys through soon. My review of my Jaguar F-Type, which is a really fun toy. And I wanted to walk you guys through some of the watches I've picked up along the journey. Each of these has a sentimental value for me, even the one that I'm wearing right now. And I'll run you through it, but I wanted to make a video breaking down the watches I've picked up throughout my entrepreneurial journey. I consider it to be just a meaningful way to document milestones. It's a meaningful sort of way to gift yourself for the hard work that you're putting into your business, because more often than not, I personally started my business, in an environment where I really needed to just kind of give myself the validation, the sort of praise that, I may have been seeking at the time. And now today I've got habits like watches and other things like that I enjoy, that I sort of indulge in, and I'm privileged to get to take a part in. So I just wanted to walk through, some of the watches I've picked up, and this is my $65,000 watch collection, and it'll actually be worth $100,000 soon with a few watches that I'll be picking up. So I'll probably do an update video once it's worth $100,000. So I want to start with a couple just thank yous to some buddies of mine. You know who you are, who have helped me get into the watch game and do it in a smart way. I've actually made $10,000 in profit on my watch collection, and that's no thing to just graze by. That's a pretty cool thing to get to say. So it's a hobby that makes me money, as well as I enjoy it. And if you're ever interested in picking up a watch or anything like that, there's a lot of people in the sort of marketing space that are into watches, but you can consider me one of them as well, if you ever need any help getting into it. Or maybe you're a total stranger and you're just stumbling into the channel. If that's the case, my name is Trey. I'm 21 years old. I run a consulting company. We do just about $1 million a year in profit, helping other business owners either start or grow their companies, help them with their marketing, their offer creation, and taking their offer to $1 million. We've got 3 clients that we've worked with from scratch to that $1 million a year level, with people enrolling into our coaching programs, as well as our done-for-you services that we offer to help them grow. And that's what we do. And I've thrown a lot of that money into watches now. I consider watches to be an investment, even though on paper they definitely aren't the best long-term investment. Just buy gold or even cryptocurrency or something like that, in my opinion. But let's get into it. I want to start from the top with actually the watch that I'm wearing right now. And it is a Submariner. It's a 2020 Rolex Submariner. And I'll just include some B-roll of these so that you can get some more close-ups as I'm going through these. But this aftermarket is worth about $16,000 to $18,000 US. I picked it up for $9,100 from my dealer. And when you have a relationship with your dealer, they're happy to give you some pieces that they know are worth more aftermarket. That's just kind of how the market works with watches. You've got the dealer that you can buy a watch from for typically a little bit either more, less, or significantly less, or around the same as aftermarket. Aftermarket kind of values the watches differently than the dealer will, and with the way that Rolex runs their company, they control the prices that their dealers are allowed to sell new pieces at. So this 2020 Submariner actually made me a lot of money very quickly. So of that $10,000 in profit, this is a lot of it. And of course, there's some other pieces in here that are slowly rising as well. And if I give this 3, 4, 5 years, I'll probably make $20,000 to $25,000 on my collection. But of the profit, this is a majority of it, and I really enjoy this watch. It's a sound watch. It feels great on the wrist. It's pretty low key. Unless you're into watches, you don't really know that it's a luxury piece, which I like that. I don't like being too flashy, especially on the street. It can feel like I'm putting myself maybe even in a bit of danger, or it can feel like I'm trying to come off a certain way. And I'm just I like to be humble and just make sure that people know that I'm a normal guy. I'm not really here to bling bling too much. I'd say my most bling bling watch, and I'll move on to it next, is my two-tone steel and gold Rolex Daytona. This is a 2018 model. No, it's a 2019 model. And I've owned it for just over a year now. I actually got it with my girlfriend at the time, and you can see a video of her and I going and getting it, and it was a lot of fun. It was a good trip for us. We went out to dinner afterwards and just enjoyed the watch. And this watch, I picked it up because we had just had our first $50,000 month in my business. And, that's half of $100,000. We had a $100,000 month in January, which was incredible. But a $50,000 month in the business was a big milestone for me at the time, and I decided, hey, why not go celebrate with a watch? So this is how I actually met my dealer, Brian, with Reese Nichols, and I just started calling around the different approved Rolex dealers. Said, hey, do you have a Daytona? I got no, until finally one dealer said, actually, we do have a Daytona. It's steel gold. It's not all steel. It's not all gold, which those will go really quick. But a steel gold Daytona, as hard as it is to come by, it's nowhere near as hard as maybe an all-steel Daytona or an all-gold Daytona. And especially with the black face, this makes my watch a little bit harder to come by. I paid in cash $17,500 for it, and it's worth just about that much considering how I've worn it. Now, if I hadn't worn it, I'd left it in the box, left the stickers on it, not touched it, it'd be worth about $21,000, maybe $22,000, but I'm not too concerned about losing that money because I wanted to wear the watch, and though it's been scratched up and used, this is definitely one of the most worn watches in my collection. It's by far, I could care less about losing the money, to be honest. I'm not here purely for the sake of collecting. I want to enjoy the watches. I see these as inheritance pieces. I see these as going down to my kids one day and their kids, and I see my collection growing, throughout my 20s and into my 30s. To the point where, I've got a lot of pieces that I can give away for special moments, or, when my son gets married or something like that. Maybe one day down the line, I'd like to have a couple Pateks in the collection. I've actually looked at a few recently, and I'm kind of in between picking between a couple different ones. And maybe if Brian, my watch dealer, is watching this, that I was this close to picking up one of your Calatravas, and then I backed out at the last second. I apologize, but that's just how it is. You sometimes just can't make up your mind. So. But that's my steel and gold Rolex Daytona, by far one of the prettiest watches in my collection. Everybody that I show it to, they almost know immediately. It's a luxury watch. They can spot that, the detail on it, the craftsmanship that you can immediately notice. It's very clearly a luxury watch. I don't know anybody that I run into on the street that doesn't think it's worth at least maybe $3,000 or $4,000. If you're into watches, it's worth a lot more than that. But even the average person will see it and be like, "Oh, that's a nice watch." Clearly, a nice piece. Moving on to the next purchase. This is a Rolex. It's actually a 1999 piece, and I went ahead and put a leather strap on it. And a lot of people really thought that was a bad move, but I needed a piece that I could wear without worrying about dinking, because I feel like almost all the rest of my pieces, at some point, the bottom strap here just gets messed up, and I always end up eventually regretting wearing it, and it just feels bad. And so I wanted a piece that I could wear with an outfit sort of like this. I'm going out tonight with a couple friends of mine. We're going out for cigars and drinks, and this is the kind of thing that I would wear to that, right? It's just very casual. Again, you wouldn't know that it's a luxury item unless you knew watches. It's got the faded red bezel, which I think is really neat. It hasn't been replaced, which is, a bit of a rarity for the Pepsis. You have the blue on top, red on bottom. I leave it that way. I like it looking that way. The GMT Master line in general has evolved in an interesting direction. I don't even know if I like the modern GMT Masters. Really what I was looking for, or the GMT Masters in general, to be honest with you, really what I was looking for was a piece with a bit more color to it, something that wouldn't stand out too much. Again, I'm not a flashy guy. Okay, I might be online, I might, share about purchases and stuff, but really it's just marketing. It helps people watch the content more, and it's kind of proof that my company's doing well, which helps us get more clients. But in real life, you'd probably never know, and that's what I really like about this watch is it kind of looks like a toy watch. It really doesn't look fancy. I remember my mom was like, "Oh, is that a new watch?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a new watch." I said, and she's into luxury items as well. I'm taking her out actually Friday, and we're planning on going to like Louis Vuitton or something like that. It should be a lot of fun to just spend the evening with her, and she likes luxury items, and so she's always curious. She's like, "How much did that cost?" And I told her this cost about $13,000. Paid for it again in cash, and she was like, "That's a $13,000 watch." I'm like, "Yeah, it's $13,000," and you just wouldn't know, right? And that's what I like about it. It just really looks like to the average eye, it just doesn't look luxury. Now, if you know Rolex, you know that this is a great collection piece. Historically has done very well in terms of its aftermarket value. And I wanted to get a 1999 piece because that's my birthday. And I also thought it was special because the GMT Masters are typically, worn by pilots at the time. Because Rolex used to be tool watches. They used to be purely for the sake of usability, and each watch had a different I guess, function to them. And the GMT Masters, the bezel rotated to represent, day and night time, and you have a red hand on the dial there that represents sort of a 24-hour clock. So that way you would have, different time zones, and you would be able to know, when it's time to sleep, when it's time to be awake, when you're flying. I believe that's the case for the GMT Masters. I don't know much about them besides that, and I wanted to be a pilot growing up. So I actually wanted to be a pilot. I thought maybe, hey, a 1999 GMT Master, Pepsi would be a lot of fun, and that's sort of the nickname for the red and blue. It's Pepsi, which I think is fitting. I think it's a neat little nickname for it. I think it's a cool, fun piece. Of all of my pieces, it's the one that I've considered selling the most. I'll be honest, it just doesn't have enough wrist time, and I would love to throw that cash maybe into a Patek or something of the sort at some point. Okay, moving on. So this is actually my first proper Rolex, in my opinion. I've got one that I bought before it, but I wasn't happy with the purchase. I'll tell you that in a moment, but this is my Rolex Datejust with a Jubilee bracelet and a blue dial with the stick hands, and I love this thing. I mean, it doesn't get enough wrist time, and I couldn't tell you why it doesn't get much more wrist time. I think it's probably because it feels, after getting the Sub and after getting the Daytona, it just feels a little light, and it feels a little too much like jewelry as opposed to being like a watch, right? It kind of just feels like jewelry, especially with the smooth bezel. It kind of it just feels like jewelry. It feels like I might as well be wearing, like a diamond bracelet or something like that. It just kind of feels flashy, and I don't know. I don't know what it is about my mentality towards watches. It's an interesting thing. I'm trying to just start with a good base that I can match with different things, and that kind of go with whatever I'll be wearing. And pretty much the only outfit that I've felt my Datejust works with is when I'm getting dressed up. I've got a blazer on or something like that. I'm going out, or I'm going to a wedding, or I'm going to an event of some kind, or whatever it is. That's when the Datejust hops on. I have had it on while I work before. I like to wear my Sub while I work. I work from home, so I'll wear a nice watch, really just for the mentality of it, because it's just nice kind of having that amount of money, on the wrist, just sitting there. It really helps sort of me feel more abundant, and that's really originally what got me into watches, was kind of having that sense of abundance. And that's a whole other topic, but I believe you should surround yourself as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, with things that just remind you that money is abundant and that you can make more of it, and that it's the last thing you should be worried about. If you have an offer, you've got a marketing process, and this is what we teach our clients. If you've got a good offer, you could sell it well, you'll make as much money as you need to make. As depending on how hungry you are, you can make as much or make as little as you want. So that's really what got me into watches originally. And I actually got this Datejust with a client that I was working with at the time. He actually has gone on to build a $2 million a year or more company after working with us directly, which is a lot of fun. And I was actually out in Amsterdam over New Year's with him, and I picked this piece up, which is a lot of fun. He was working with me directly as a consultant. I helped him pick an offer, sort of get his mentality in place, and he's gone on to scale pretty wildly, which is a lot of fun. So, and I didn't really mention that this Sub, actually, I picked it up while we had a lot of clients out as well. So I actually invited a lot of our clients out for sort of a private dinner where we just masterminded and sort of bounced ideas off of each other and just connected on a human level. Because due to the nature of the industry, the marketing industry, I find that I just barely get to spend time with the people that I serve, and it honestly pains me. I want to get to know these people and know them intimately and be able to serve them on a real level. And so I said, hey, I invited some of our top clients out. I spent probably $5,000 that night on just like reservations and dinners and different plans and stuff like that. And paying for meals for everyone and all that, and then plus this watch. So it was an expensive night, but it was completely worth it just to get to spend some time with some people that I care about. And I did make them pay for their own flights. That was one thing that I did, but we reserved a spot at a local restaurant called St. Elmo's. It's actually, this is the same room that if any of you are into sports, that Peyton Manning would go to after he would have his, like after a game with his team or after a practice with his team. It was just kind of his favorite spot to retreat to. So it was a lot of fun having everybody in that room. I had a connection that hooked me up with it. Actually, my brother's girlfriend, Victoria, helped me set that up, so that was really sweet of her. So, yeah, and I picked this watch up at that time. So we went to the dealer, checked out some watches together, and picked this up. And actually, the dealer took apart my Daytona as well and showed me all the inner workings of it, which was a lot of fun. And now a lot of our clients will probably be coming back in town to pick up their watches when it comes time, because that's something that I enjoy, and I think it's just cool to help them pick them up. Aaron, for example, Aaron Spikes, one of our clients, who's now helping us with our clients. They start off as a client, then they come around and they actually serve our clients with us. He'll be coming out at some point soon. He's been looking at a couple different Datejusts, and I just think that's really cool. So, moving on, we have it's a 70s piece. It is a old Rolex Oyster Perpetual date. And, it just barely is on my wrist. I picked it up. It was my first six-figure run rate month, which, is about $8,300 in a single month. And this was probably about 2.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. And I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do with all this money. I was just turning 19, and so I decided, I'm going to pick up a nice watch. I've seen people do it. I thought it would be kind of fun. I went online, went on Chrono24, looked up Datejust, picked the first one, and just bought it. And I didn't know what I was doing. I have confirmed that it is real. I when it first came out, I had the suspicion that it's not even real. There's no way this thing's real. Picked it up for about $2,500. And I don't think I mentioned the Datejust's price, by the way. This is about $9,000. Yeah, it was $9,000. But this Oyster Perpetual, I picked it up for about $2,500. I'm thinking if I were to put another strap on it, maybe a nylon or like a leather, I'd wear it more. But as of right now, it's a little too dinky, and it just never got wrist time because it just felt very clearly like a aftermarket 70s watch. And so it just kind of sat on my shelf, and I wouldn't say I regret the purchase, because at any time I can sell it and get the money back. So I've never gotten rid of it, but I just wanted a watch, and I figured, you know what? I might as well just get started and just buy something. And I had no idea what I was doing, and I bought this. So that was my first watch, and I wore it a little bit here and there, but not much, just because it never really felt like a man's watch. It just kind of felt like, you could very clearly tell that if you were in the watch world and I had that on my wrist, you'd be like, this guy has no idea what he's doing. And it's true, because I didn't at the time, and in a lot of ways I still don't. I just have a good relationship with a great dealer that's hooking me up with some good pieces, and I should be getting my first Patek at some point soon. I'm in no rush because, really right now I'm in a season of my business where I'm deploying capital in a lot of creative ways. We just put a lot of money into a mastermind I'm going to be a part of, and just to brainstorm new ideas for the company, as well as advertising expenses, as well as team expenses. I've got a bigger team than I've ever had, and though they're cheap in general, it starts to stack up, and it starts to become, a nearly 5-figure monthly expense, and you want to be careful. But pretty much anytime I have $20,000 to $30,000 like sitting that I don't have a use for, if not now, not only not now, but out into a 6-month span out into the future, it's probably going to go into a watch, or maybe two. So a couple of the watches I've been looking at, just to sort of give this video a bit of a wrap up, is a JaegerLeCoultre Reverso. Love the look of one of those. I love just the flat sort of the Roman numeral dial, the flat rectangular design of it. I don't even know if I'd ever reverse it. I just think it looks cool. I think it's a classy watch. It's a gentleman's watch. It's the kind of thing, where I would, again, throw on a blazer, wear it out, have a cigar, that kind of a thing. That is completely my vibe. If you know me in person, I just try and be Frank Sinatra reincarnate as much as possible. And though I sometimes pull it off really well, I often other times do not pull it off at all. So watches are just one of these ways that I can kind of hack the system a little bit. But JaegerLeCoultre Reverso. I would love a Patek Calatrava. I looked at one recently, and it was beautiful. It was about $29,000 to $30,000, and I was about to do it, but then I realized, you know what? Let me buy this when I know that it's not a bad idea. Not that it's a bad idea. I don't think buying a Patek is ever a bad idea. I don't think buying a watch in general is ever a bad idea. But I just knew that in that moment, I could deploy that capital in ways that would make me more money than buying a watch. And so any Patek pretty much is going to be a good investment generally over the long term. I know that. Watch collectors are going to be in the comments saying, hey, you should have just gotten it if you had the money and you had the chance, just pick it up. But, my opinion is, you gotta play second, third, fourth order consequences. And even though watches are in general going to be a good purchase because it's unlike a car, it's going to typically appreciate over time, and it's a good luxury item in that way. You got to know, where else that money could go, especially as a business owner. So it's just important that whenever I pull money out of the business, I consider that it will be taxed. Typically, unless I can figure out how to write off the watches, which, I'm working with my accountant to figure out different ways of writing them off and tax deductions and such. But yeah, Patek Calatrava, JaegerLeCoultre Reverso. I would really love to have a steel Daytona, or a ceramic or steel Daytona. A Panda dial, I believe is like the right term for it. If they call it Panda, I believe so. But it's just, where it's essentially this Daytona right here, but just without the gold, and I believe it's got ceramic around the bezel, and it's all steel, and I think that's just a beautiful watch. I think it's just a classy watch. Long term, I'd like to buy a Calatrava and then a few other pieces from Patek, and then earn my way to a Nautilus. I would love a Nautilus. If my dealer came to me and said, hey, we've got a Nautilus, it's $60,000, would you like it? I would say, absolutely, I'll pick it up right now. I'd buy it immediately. I wouldn't even think twice about it. So I want to earn my way into that league, and I think it'll be another 2 years or so, maybe 3 years, and I'll kind of earn my way into that. But just developing a relationship with my dealer, making them know that I appreciate and love them, and I do. I really genuinely do. So if you want to contact them, feel free. I've left their contact information in the description. Robert, my editor, should take care of that just fine. Yeah, that's my $65,000 watch collection. I do have one other watch that I've purchased. It was actually for our team member, Brendan. He's our sales rep, and he's done an incredible job working inside of the company, helping enroll our clients into our consulting programs, as well as working with myself or the team directly. And I decided, hey, I'm going to pick him up a watch. He earned us, over six figures extremely quickly working with us. And I said, you know what? All right, let's just get him a watch. Of course, I trained him, kept a close eye on him, helped him make it happen, invested in some sales programs for him, and really made him a great asset for the company. But I figured, you know what? He earned it completely. Here's a photo of that. That is a leather strap. It's a 1979. I believe it's technically a Datejust. It was an estate piece. So on the back of it, it had an engraving. It said something like, "Thank you for your 30 years of service at this paper company. We love you, Donald," or something like that, right? So it was like this weird retirement piece. But I was like, you know what? It looks cool. He's never gonna flip it over. Nobody's ever gonna know. And I just figured it was a good gift and a good investment into a valued team member. So that's the only other watch that I've purchased. I've got a few other in my collection that are kind of a bit more sentimental. They don't really add to the collection value much. My grandpa passed away in December 1st. He passed away just due to various complications, and I inherited a Seiko chronograph that he had, which I loved. I could have inherited some of his guns or maybe some knives. He's a very outdoorsy kind of guy, and I said, you know what? No, I just want his watch. And it was the watch. He was a pastor, and he used to, he wore it on the road all the time. So you'd see it. You'd see him wearing it in photos and videos. It was his watch, and so I have that in my collection as well. But these are the main sort of hitters. I just wanted to pull out the luxury pieces, the ones that aren't really so much. They're not so sentimental. I mean, they are sentimental, but really they're clickbaity. They're, hey, $65,000 collection at 21 years old. All that kind of stuff. But I just do want to say, I've got a network of people that make me look like a chump. Okay, 21 years old. By now, I've got people that have $1 million in watches, $2 million invested. I mean, it's just, this to me is just the start, and it's all about who you surround yourself with as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. What are your personal standards? Who do you surround yourself with? What are your personal aspirations? How do you view yourself? And so, right now I view myself as a $65,000 watch collection kind of guy. Eventually, I will have a larger watch collection, and I'd like to even trade some of them in and kind of, work my way up. My dream collection is just one steel Daytona and a Nautilus of any kind, preferably 5711, but I know that they discontinued the 5711s as of now. At least I believe the blue dial, they discontinued those. I don't know the specifics, but yeah, that's my collection. I'll wrap up the video. I'll stop rambling. Hopefully you guys enjoyed just a quick overview of my collection, at least the high value stuff in my collection. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe. No call to action in this video, just a very casual, just wanted to show you something that means a lot to me. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Feel free to leave any comments. Happy to engage with you guys in the comments. If you need anything, you're welcome to message me on Instagram. Instagram's kind of my daily platform. It's where I'll post on my story almost every other day. There, some of the client results we're getting, as well as just some day-to-day things like what I'm working on that day, or who I'm hanging out with, and if I'm picking up a watch, what I'm looking at, and it's just a good place to follow. So go ahead and follow that over there. And without further ado, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.